Hello. Okay. So, for class 12 aspirants for which we are having the exam on 20th of Feb. So, we are going to complete this semiconductor whole exercise, competency and the NCERT 2 days. And this will be a complete awesome lecture where you can practice, remove your errors, and you can complete all 7 marks from the semiconductor that you are going to get in exam. So first of all, without wasting time, just we see that what we have to study in class 12. So there are a lot of the things out of which many a thing has been removed from the syllabus. So energy bands in conductors, semiconductors and insulators, their types, the qualitative ideas on it and how they functions. Intrinsic and extrinsic type of semiconductors, we will study about P and N type of semiconductors. Then formation of PNs and diode. Related to that, what are the important points that we have to keep in mind? And although from the PNs and diode, we have a lot of the things in our competitive exams as well. And then semiconductor diode, their IV characteristics in forward and reverse bias. So what are the biasings? What is forward bias, reverse bias, and a simple kind of the circuit where the diodes are used, so that we have all in the syllabus. This logic gate and all and transistors, they were earlier, but we have not now in the syllabus. Okay, so what will be the mode of this lecture? That we are going to do the all concept first. Okay, all concept first. We'll do all concept. Then we will do this NCERT secret. So we have a lot of things on NCERT book. So I'll just go line by line with the NCERT. From there, I'll pick out the points where we can expect that 2026 questions can come. And then the competency based questions. So CBSE has released some competency based focus based on their official website. So we are going to do that kind of the questions. So all these things we will be covering today, and this will cover the entire 7 marks. So I'm repeating that thing again. You can do 7 marks, you can complete 7 marks with all these lectures. So you can start with me and complete your all semiconductor chapter, and from there you can get your marks. Okay, good. So in a slow pace now, I'll start. What is a conductor? So basically, in electrostatics, we study about the materials which has the capacity or which has a tendency to transfer charge from one point to another one. So basically, what is a conductor? What do you mean by the conductor? So for suppose, if we take a very simple material like the cylindrical section of any copper wire or any metal wire I'm taking here. So this contains electrons and there is a fixed positive charges. So these electrons are free within the material and they roam about and collide with another electrons or maybe with the positive ions as well. So they are under frequent collision among themselves, and this collision happens due to the temperature, and during the collision they have a speed, so that speed is called as the thermal speed. So like if we consider any material, so they have ions, they have molecules, they have electrons, they are into random collision always, and due to this collision they do travel some mean free path. Okay, so few terms related to this one will understand us, that their collision depends on the temperature. More is the temperature, more will be the collision, and the random motion is due to the thermal speed. The thermal speed comes due to the temperature, and then when these two electrons or maybe you can say the positive ions collide with the electrons, they have some mean free path. Okay, due to this collision they offer some resistance to their path. There is some resistance is offered to their paths. So a lot of things are here. There the thermal speed, then mean free path, then the resistance, and all the things depends on the temperature. And due to this resistance, we also have a thing in the material that is called as the conductivity. So we will define first some term related to their motions. The thing is here, that is the conductivity. So we'll start with this one. That for suppose in a material, if you increase the temperature, so there will be the collision. So the two electrons, for suppose, or the electrons and a positive ion will take some time to collide. So between the two frequent collision, there is a time elapsed. That time is called as relaxation time, and this is denoted by tau. So when temperature increases, tau decreases. That is means we will have the frequent collisions. And when tau decreases, so in current electricity we have understood a term that is called as mobility, and mobility is given by E tau divided by m. So basically when tau will decrease, so the mobility will decrease. So mobility also decreases. Due to this, another term is there, that the conductivity depends on the tau. So for conductivity, the symbol is sigma. So we can write the formula here, mu into n into E. What is this n? N is the number of electron per unit volume. And what is E? E is the charge and mu is the mobility. So when mobility decreases, conductivity also decreases. And when conductivity decreases, also there is a formula in current electricity, and that is called as resistivity. Before the resistance it comes resistivity. And what is this resistivity? Resistivity, that is denoted by m by ne square tau. Okay, so what happens when tau decreases, resistivity increases. So temperature increases, tau decreases, mobility decreases, conductivity decreases, and the resistivity increases, and so does the resistance also increases. So these are the factors on which conductivity depends. So I think that you can get 3 to 4 questions from there related to this temperature and all. So within a conductor, what happens? Temperature increases, tau decreases, mobility decreases, conductivity decreases, resistivity increases, and so does the resistance also increases. So these are the things which exist at micro level in a conductor. Okay, now understand the fact. Before that, we are going to introduce something here. I am going to introduce something here, that is the nature of the charge. When you see in a metal or the conductor, we have electrons as the free charge. The positive charge remains fixed and the electrons moves randomly and they undergo the collision. But in semiconductor, this has somewhere the conductivity or the conductance between the metals and the insulators. So in semiconductor we have two types of charges. One is the electron, that is the free electron, and then it is holes. So hole is equivalent to the positive charge, which is a vacant place. What is holes? The hole is a vacant place left by the electron, and which has the charge equivalent to the electron but as positive. So plus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, you can say that is the charge of the holes. And electron, already we know that 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, that is the charge of the electron. Fine. So in semiconductor we have two types of the charges, electrons and holes. So for suppose when electron transfers from one point to another, so it leaves a vacant place here. So the hole is mere vacant place created by the electron during the transition. So when in a conductor, that like in the metal, we say only the free electrons moves is the charge carrier, which is the reason for the current carrying or the occurrence of the current in a material. But in semiconductor, electrons and holes both are the reason of the for the conductance of the current. Okay, so in a semiconductor, when we try to understand, so the current is due to the electron and holes both. So the total current would be given by IE plus IS. So you can write it here, the total current in the semiconductor, it would be better. Okay, total current in the semiconductor. So I is equal to I E plus IS, that is the current due to the electron, and this is the current due to the hole. If you write it again, so I can be written as I is equal to NE A Vd. Okay, so I will put a subscript here that there are the two types of the charges in the semiconductor. So here this N is the Ne, that is the number of the electron, E is the amount of the charge of the electron, A is the area, and Vde, that is the drift velocity of the electron, plus NH into E into A into VDH. So this is the drift velocity of the holes, this is the number of the holes in a material or in a kind of the semiconductor that we have taken. So the current is due to these two. So all these things from here we can take as a common. So Ne, we'll write first NEEA, and Vd can be written as mu E into E. So for a material, for suppose if you apply an electric field across the two ends, so there will be an electric field, and due to this electric field, so for suppose the electrons are here, so electrons moves in the opposite direction of the electric field, so it will get the force in this direction, it will start transiting from this point to this point, and due to which mu E would be here. So that is the drift velocity here. So Vd is equal to mu E into E, and mu E already we saw the mobility there. Okay, so plus NH, E, A, and Vd. Vd is equal to mu H into E. So I is equal to this one. Now if I take A as the common from there, so I by A can be written as Ne into E into mu E into okay, so I'll take E as the common there, so NH into E into mu S, and then E as the common we can take it here. So in current electricity, again you have studied one more formulas regarding the current density J. I by A is called as the J, and J is a vector quantity. Current density is a vector quantity. So J is equal to, we can see already we did this one, the conductivity is equal to mu into N into V. I have written a little bit interchanging the letters. So this can be written as the conductivity of the electron, plus this can be written as the conductivity of the holes, and all multiplied by E. So J is equal to this one. In vector form if you want to write, so we can write it like in vector form, J vector can be equal to sigma total into E, and E is a vector quantity. So you may get a question in 2026 related to so that the total conductivity in semiconductor is due to electron and holes both. It's due to electron and holes both. Or maybe you are asked to derive this formula to find out the relation for the total conductivity, and remember that would be equal to sigma E plus sigma S. So this is the derivation for the total conductivity for the charges in a semiconductor. You have to start from there by just stating the fact that in a semiconductor there are two types of the charge carrier, electrons and holes, and when they move together, so the current generated is to the electrons and holes both, and you can start from this thing and then you can arrive to this situation. Okay, another thing is no sir, who is there? No sir, anyway it's fine. Another thing is, now we understand about the fact, the material. How is this material formed? So we see that we have an atom, and in atoms we had discrete energy levels. Like here is the nucleus, and then we have the energy, different energy levels. 1s, 2s, 2p, then you can say the 3s. Okay. So in atoms we have nucleus, and then after we have the different energy levels in which the particular electrons revolve around. Okay, but when these two atoms comes together, for suppose we have this atom with energy levels this one, and there is another atom with energy levels this one. So what happens when these two come closer? When these two come closer, and the distance between atoms, reduces to 10 to the power minus like 15 meter, or approximately 10 to the power minus 14 to minus 15 meter. So what happens then? They form bulk material because we understand that the atom or any molecule, they do not exist singly. So to get a material, always there forms a lattice. That is the bulk of the atoms and molecules comes together. Then they form a lattice. That is the bulk of the material. And how are they formed? The two atoms comes together, comes closer, lesser than a particular distance. So the atomic size we have at the Fermi level, that is 10 to the power minus 14 to 10 to the power minus 15 meter. So when two atoms come closer than this distance, that is between 10 to the minus 14 to 10 to the power minus 15, when comes closer than this distance, what happens? So in atoms we have the valence shell. So the valence shell, the valence shell merge together. At first they merge together, then split into two energy bands. So in atoms we have energy levels, but at this one, the lattice, that is we have energy bands. So the valence shell merge together and they form energy bands. And what are these energy bands? There is no effect on the inner cells. Remember that. The inner cells are not affected. Only the valence cells modifies into the energy band. And these two energy bands are called conduction band, that remains at the top level, conduction band and valence band. So you can say, what are energy bands? And that we have in the syllabus. What are energy bands? So when the atoms comes closer than the 10 to the power minus 14 meter, their valence cells or the last cell gets modified into the energy band, and they are called as the valence band and conduction band. So whatever the number of the valence electrons were they, in the valence cell, so they remain in the valence band, and at the top of that they form conduction band. So we can see that these valence band and conduction band has some energy gap between them. These are called forbidden energy gap. Forbidden energy, energy gap, or forbidden energy gap, or you can say simply the energy gap. So simply I can say that the reason for conduction of electron for any material, conduction of the current for any material, to have electrons in the conduction band, or we can say that the movement of electrons from one to another point. Whenever the electron moves, they have a particular net displacement, then we can say that the current is generated. So they only conduct when the electron moves. So the two types of the movement can occur in the lattice. Either the valence in the valence cell, for suppose we have some vacant place, like I am drawing here the two things, try to understand the fact that for suppose this is valence band, okay, this is valence band, and for suppose we have electrons up to this level, a little bit of space is vacant in the valence band, and we have electron at this level. This is called as the, I have made here 5, so there should be 4 only for the case of the silicon and the germanium. Okay, so this is called as the FEL, Fermi energy level. Fermi energy level. Okay, so when you put some energy into it or you supply some heat, what happens in the valence band? This electron moves from this level and goes a little bit higher. This does not transit to the valence band. They just move into the upper level of the valence band. So within the valence band itself, the electron can transit. A little bit of current would be there, but still there would be some very low amount of the current. First thing. Second one, also there is the case when you supply the heat, so the electrons in the valence band gets agitated and they get moved into the conduction band at the top of the valence band. For the instance, I am just taking how this the movement of the conduction of the material or conduction of the electric current in a material works. The simple thing is the electron should move. And how the electron can move? Either they have the two options to move. They can move within the valence band, a little bit of movement would be there. And when you supply enough of the energy, the electron in the valence band can move from VB to CB, that is into the conduction band. And these are the two reasons for which the conduction of electric current occurs within a material. So that is how the materials are categorized into semiconductor or conductor or the insulator. So, and this is how the lattices are formed. So now you can write that the nature of the material, nature or type of material, nature or type of material. Okay, before that, if you want, you can write the reason that I told just now, what is the reason for the conduction by any material. A material conducts electricity while other does not. The same reason I explained earlier, you can write those. Okay, now the nature or the type of the material. So the first is that metal, or you can simply say the or conductor. Okay, so I'll just make these three types into the same so that you can compare it. So for suppose we have the valence band, and then at the top of that we have conduction band. Okay, these are the two things. Between them we have the energy gap. This is the general one I am drawing right now. If you want to draw it for the metal, so what will happen? You see, in the conduction band, this is the lower energy level, LEL. This is the higher energy level, HEL. This is the lower energy level of the valence band. This is the higher energy level of the valence band. Okay, and the energy level up to which the electron exists in a cell, it is called as Fermi energy level. Okay, good. And if you want to draw it for the metal to show the energy gap or to represent conduction band or the valence band within the metal or within the conductor, what will happen? The lower level of the conduction band is below the valence band, that is the higher level of the valence band. So you may draw the figure like that. I draw here, this is your conduction band, and then you draw the valence band. So already you see that the lower level of the conduction band is below the higher level of the valence band. So this region is the overlapping region where the electron exists. So whenever potential difference is applied, so there is a generation of electric field, and due to which the electron starts transiting. So electrons are already in the conduction band, that is why they are readily a conductor. So the metals or the copper iron, you can say, at the room temperature they can conduct electricity. And for this, if you have you can see the energy gap, like between the energy gap or the difference of the energies between the conduction band and the valence band is called as the energy gap. So you see here there is an overlapping between valence band and the conduction band. So energy gap is approximately, you can say, it is 0. So electrons are already in the conduction band, and that is why they can conduct electricity. And if you want to draw for semiconductor or for the insulator first we draw, then we move to semiconductor. You want to draw for the insulator. So there is a huge gap between conduction band and the valence band. This is your conduction band, CB I will write, and then it is your valence band. So width of the valence band is lesser than the width of the conduction band. They have the more energy capacity than the valence band. So this is your energy gap, and this energy gap is greater than approximately 3 electron volt as per the NCERT. So the insulator has energy gap greater than 3 electron volt. That is why they are considered as the insulator. So at anyhow we cannot apply that much of the energy so that the electron can jump from here to the conduction band. That is why they cannot conduct electricity. And then we come with semiconductor. So in semiconductor, this is your conduction band and this is your valence band. So between these two, the energy gap is approximately equal to 0.7 electron volt, that is for the germanium, and then energy gap is equal to 1.1 electron volt, that is for the silicon. So these are the very low or the minimal, we can say, the energy gap between the valence band and the conduction band. That is why they behave as the semiconductor. So on thermal agitation, or somehow if we supply the electric field, so when we apply the electric field, so there is a little bit of energy is given, and from there the electron moves from valence band to the conduction band, and that is how they conduct electricity. So at room temperature we can say that the semiconductor is very low conductivity, but on thermal agitation their conductivity increases. So now we will discuss what happens to the conductivity of semiconductor at room temperature and after the temperature is increased. Okay, so you can start from here. Pure semiconductor, you can start from pure semiconductor. Pure semiconductor. See, the semiconductor, here I am taking the example of silicon. They have 4 valencies. So when they make lattice with the neighboring silicon atom, so they make covalent bond with the neighboring silicon atom. So already they have made the covalent bond, and this is how it's okay. This is how they form the bonding, or the lattice is formed. So when we supply heat, when we give heat, what happens? The electron breaks from the covalent bond and gets free and move into the conduction band. They goes into the conduction band. So their conductivity increases. So at low temperature, they do not conduct electricity, but at room temperature also they have very low conductivity. Maybe we cannot expect that at pure semiconductor is there, and if we connect them or apply the electric field, they can conduct the electricity. So it is very less. That is, you can say that in the micro or the nano ampere current. But when the heat is given, so the covalent bond is broken, and from there the electron goes into the conduction band, into the lattice, and they starts conducting electricity. So their conductivity increases with the temperature. And how that happens? So when temperature is increased, relaxation time we have already seen that decreases, that the time elapsed between the two collisions, that decreases. But you see here, there was only one electron, there was a totally no free electrons was there, no free electrons were there. But when we increase the temperature, relaxation time decreases, that the collision time decreases. So resistivity should increase, but it does not happen so. Why? Because on increasing temperature, they release an electron and leave a vacant place behind it, that is called as the holes. So what happens here? N increases, and increasing of N is greater than the decreasing of tau. And what we have here, rho resistivity is equal to M divided by Ne square tau. So what happens here? The tau decreases, that means resistivity should increase? No. So due to the tau, it should decrease. But it should increase. But what is happening? N is also increasing. So N increases, and increasing of N is greater than the decreasing of tau. That is why resistivity decreases, and so does the resistance decreases, and they start conducting electricity with an efficient rate. And what happens to the mobility or the conductivity? You can also say when temperature increases, what is the formula for the mobility? Mu is equal to E tau divided by M. So when tau decreases, mobility also decreases. What is the factor here? That number of charge increases, mobility decreases. What happens to the conductivity? Mu Ne. Conductivity is mu Ne. So mu is decreasing, E is constant, but N is increasing. So conductivity also increases. So we have seen that the mobility decreases, but conductivity increases. Now why does the conductivity increases? Because the number of charge increases. So these are the very small details that you may get in MCQs or the assertion reason kind of the questions. So we will get of course 7 marks questions from there, and every minor details you have to focus on so that you can answer the well and nothing you can miss. Okay. So these are the things you can pick it down and you can make self note related to this one so that you can answer it. Okay. Now, so these are the behavior of the pure semiconductor, and since the total charge, total negative charge and the total positive charge within the material are equal, that's why the semiconductor or any kind of material, they are overall neutral. They do not contain any net charge. So why do we need to dope the semiconductor? What is extrinsic semiconductor and why do we need to mix impurities into the semiconductor? There can be a question into 2 marks. Why do we need to mix or dope a pure semiconductor? We understand, to increase the conductivity. How? By increasing the number of charge. So to increase the number of charge, either electrons or the holes, we need mixing of the semiconductors with impurities. And what are those impurities? There are trivalent and the pentavalent. Phosphorus is the pentavalent and the aluminum is the trivalent. Apart from that, in NCERTs, when I will refer to them, there are 2 to 3 names: aluminum or indium, arsenic. Also, they are given. So we'll refer to that as well. You can write a question: why do we need to dope a pure semiconductor? The perfect reason or the value point reason is that to increase the number of free charges, whether electrons or the holes. Now write down extrinsic semiconductor. Extrinsic semiconductor. Why it is needed? To increase number of charges. And what are those charges? Holes or electrons. Okay. Now, what are the types of the extrinsic semiconductor? What happens when we dope with this extrinsic semiconductor? Okay, so first we see the trivalent doping. So mixing with atom which has 3 valency, which has valency equal to 3. That's the wrong one. Which has valency equal to 3. So when you mix with trivalent, what happens? We get p-type semiconductor. And mixing with the atom which has valency equal to 5, that is the pentavalent doping. We get n-type semiconductor. Okay, so in trivalent we get p-type, and in pentavalent we get pentavalent doping. We get n-type semiconductor. Also there is thing. What do you mean by doping? These are the very small terms. Okay, so since we have to cover everything in a little while time, that's why I am giving the short things, because I assume that when you are studying with me, so I am giving the points, the tricks, that way you can remember. You cannot learn the whole book or remember it and give it as it is written in the book and supply in the examination. No, you have to make some important points in your brain, and from there you can make the sentences so that you can memorize everything. Remember, you have to give 15 chapters in a 3 hours, and you have 5 to 7 days to complete all those things. So I am giving a flow chart kind of the method so that you can remember each and every point. So you cannot forget those things. Okay. So extrinsic semiconductor, they are the impure semiconductors. What are they? They are the impure semiconductors. How are they made? By mixing the impurities. What kind of the impurities? Trivalent and the pentavalent. What are trivalent? Because which has the valency 3. So that, and pentavalent, their valency is 5. So when you mix, when trivalent doping is done, they give p-type semiconductor. Why p-type semiconductor? I will discuss it now. This pentavalent doping, they give n-type semiconductor. They produces n-type semiconductor on pentavalent doping. Okay, why do we need to mix up or make the semiconductor impure? To increase the number of charges. And why is that? Because we do not have any free electron in the pure semiconductor. That is why or increase the temperature, very less amount of the electrons are produced. So no, not much amount of the free charges are produced. That is why we need to dope them. Okay, and what is the doping? So mixing of impurities with the semiconductor, the process is called as doping. Now there is a question: can we take a semiconductor and simply we put aluminum together, and can we get a this N-type or the P-type semiconductor? No. Remember that we take wafers of semiconductor, we put into a lab or any room or the environment where you can say that the aluminum or the phosphorus environments are there, and the particle accelerator or some kind of the equipments are there which releases high energetic aluminum or the phosphorus molecules, and they get embedded into the semiconductor, and they form covalent bond with their host atom, and that is how this p-type or n-type semiconductors form. So if you have the misconception that simply we fix them, we join them, and p-type or n-type semiconductor can be produced, no, it is not possible, because the bonding takes place at atomic level. We have to decrease the distance of the two atoms at a level of 10 to the power minus 14 to 10 to the power minus 15, then only this bonding will occur. That is why we cannot simply fix and make the extrinsic semiconductor. This is the question given in the NCERT. You should learn that. Okay, and this kind of the question they can ask in the theories as well. Okay, now what happens in p-type and the n-type? So let's understand that fact. N-type. So for suppose if I am doping with phosphorus, that is a pentavalent, then only we will get the n-type semiconductor. How the n-type semiconductor is got? Pentavalent doping. Pentavalent doping. Okay, one more thing. Dopant and doped material. The semiconductor used is called as a doped material, and the molecules or the atoms which are used to dope, they are called as the dopant. D-O-P-A-N-T, dopant. For suppose silicon is doped, so silicon will be doped material. Silicon will be doped material, and what was that? Aluminium or the, I just suppose aluminum or the phosphorus. Aluminum or the phosphorus, they are the dopant. They are dopant, and the whole process is doping. Whole process is doping. Good. So n-type. So we do pentavalent doping. So suppose the phosphorus, we introduce phosphorus or embed phosphorus, and they make covalent bond with the silicon. So one silicon atom is ejected at the place of that phosphorus comes. So they form covalent bond. So what happens? We already have, it has a 5 valency. So they make 4 covalent bonds. That is done. But it has 5 valency. So 1 electron is extra that remains free. And for suppose if we dope with 15 into 10 to the power for suppose 20 atoms. So for 1 atom we get 1 free electron. So for 15 into 10 to the power 20 atom, we would get this amount of free electron. This amount of free electron. So electron number, when we give heat to it, so more electrons will break from the covalent bond and will go to the conduction band. On heating, you can write it, on heating more electrons will break the covalent bond and go to the conduction band. So we will see, or we see that the Ne is very greater than NH. Ne is very greater than NH. So electron number is more than the holes. That is why they are called N-type semiconductor. And N is what? The negative. So N-type semiconductor. Electron number of electron is more. That is why N-type semiconductor. Okay. Now, what is N-type semiconductor? Electron has more number. So the majority charge carrier is electron. Majority charge carrier is electron. Majority charge carrier is electron. Also, we get some questions that whether they are neutral or not. Yes, the n-type semiconductor or p-type, whatever be, n-type semiconductor or p-type semiconductor, they are neutral. Why they are neutral? Because there is no net charge available. Whenever the phosphorus comes into that, or they make this covalent bond with the silicon, so overall the net charge is zero. Overall the net charge is zero. What is happening? Oh my god. Just a second, it's buffering. Something is not wrong. Something is wrong with the. I think it's working now. Poor. I don't know what is happening. Anyways, it will become fast later on. Fine. So, n-type semiconductor or p-type semiconductor, it is neutral because overall the net charge is zero. So the phosphorus already embedded with this silicon, they all were neutral. So there is no any extra charges there. So number of electron and the number of proton within the semiconductors, they are all equal. That's why we have the zero charge. Of course, we do have free electrons, but we have equal amount of the protons as well. That's why we have the net charge zero. Okay, now come to what is more with this n-type semiconductor. What other characteristics you should understand? Okay, they have more mobility of n-type is more. Mobility of n-type semiconductor. Mobility of n-type semiconductor. N-type semiconductor is more than p-type. P-type. And why is that? Because for this relaxation time is more. What is the reason? Relaxation time is more for n-type semiconductor. Relaxation time for electron is more. That is why you can write it. Relaxation time for the n-type or electron is more than the holes. That's why the mobility of n-type semiconductor is more. That's why also we can say that the n-type is considered more. N-type semiconductor is considered of higher conductivity than p-type. It's a better semiconductor. N-type is better semiconductor than p-type. Done. Okay. Now come to this p-type semiconductor. I'll change the page first. That will be better. Okay. P-type semiconductor. How are they formed? With trivalent doping. Trivalent doping. Second, we have NH is very greater than Ne. The number of holes is greater than number of electrons. Why the number of holes is greater than number of electrons? Because for suppose aluminum has 3 valencies. So if we take aluminum there and they form covalent bond with silicon, so only 3 covalent bond will be formed and 1 place will remain vacant. So without any heat generation or without any heat agitation, we already have a hole. And when we give the heat, so NH number of hole would be greater than number of electron, and that would be very greater than electron. So what is the majority charge carrier? The major charge carrier is holes. Okay. Now we have understand these facts, and already some few reasons are written there as a component like the mobility or the conductivity. So you can pull it from there and you can get it there. So another one that now we understand number of electron and the number of holes. Based on that, there is another quantity which is defined in semiconductor, that is the carrier concentration or the charge carrier concentration. So what is this charge carrier concentration? The product of Ne into NH is called as a square of the charge carrier concentration, like that. So it is denoted by Ni. I will write it here so you can understand that. Ni square is equal to Ne into NH, and this is called as the law of mass action. Law of mass action. What is this Ni? Ni is charge carrier concentration. Charge carrier concentration. Charge carrier concentration. Fine. Related to this, at least 3 to 4 questions I have seen in the competency, and in NCERT also you have 2 to 3 questions. So maybe this time in 2026, related to this one, you will get a question. It is 99.98% confirmed that they will ask a question related to this Ni into NH. Okay. Other things you have to mind here, that when you dope, so we have the number of dopants and the number of donors and the number of acceptors, Na and Nd. So during the formation of N-type or the P-type semiconductor, when we dope with the extrinsic the outer atom, the other atom, that is the aluminum or the phosphorus, so we get another number that is called Na and Nd. So write down there Na and Nd. Ni square, I'll explain it right now. Ni square is equal to Na into Nd. It is the same charge carrier concentration. Na is equal to number of acceptor. Number of acceptor. And Nd is equal to number of donor. Number of donor. When is the number of donor? For pentavalent doping. Pentavalent doping. I wrote an example, the number there, that for suppose 12 into 10 to the power something was there. So that atom was used to dope silicon semiconductor. So that number of atom is actually the number of the donor. Why the number of the donor? Who gives electron? That's why they are called the number of the donor. And number of the acceptor, that is the trivalent. So it gives the vacant place. Trivalent doping. Okay, so maybe there is also one more thing that you have to consider on. You have to draw energy gap or energy band diagram. Draw energy band diagram for trivalent or pentavalent doping. Trivalent and pentavalent doping. Pentavalent doping. So what will happen in trivalent doping? So you already know, I'll just give you the flow thing. So here it is Vb and it is trivalent. So there will be another level of hole created here, and another level will be created. This will be called as acceptor energy level, and here you will have the conduction band. I don't remember this value exactly, but it is something like a 0.1 electron volt, maybe like that. So the energy gap reduces by 0.1 electron volt approximately, because this is the exact value I don't remember. Okay, this is in the NCERT. Pick up from there, or after a while I'll pick it from there. Okay, so and the higher energy level of the valence band moves a little bit up and set an acceptor energy level. in case of the trivalent doping. So this is the energy band diagram for trivalent. For pentavalent, we will have, see, one electron was extra, so they move into the conduction band. That electron move into the conduction band. So a donor energy level is set at this level, below the conduction band, and this is called as ED, and is also approximately reduces by something 0. I won't write the number, I'll just take it from the NCERT, okay, later on. So here you have to put out the number. I'll just give that number in a while. When I go to the NCERT, I'll take it from there. So there is some, this energy gap is reduces by some 0.1 electron volt, like that, something like that. In case of trivalent, accepted energy level is set above the valence band. In case of pentavalent doping, donor energy level is set below the donor conduction band. And this is the thing, maybe they can ask in 2 marks questions. Okay, apart from that, I would like to go with number of okay, so the number of atoms you already know. Those doped are called as the acceptor and then donor. So for this one, in the trivalent, number of the trivalent atom will be called as number of acceptor, and number of pentavalent atom will be called as number of donor, ND. Okay, how are they done? So I'll one question they can ask this time related to this, and I already told that, and how they can ask this question. So basically, for suppose you can write it here, at 27 degrees Celsius or 300 K, Ne is approximately equal to it was acceptor, so donor, ND, and NH is approximately equal to Na. Why is that? Because in pure semiconductor, without any agitation, the number of electrons and the number of holes are equal, and that happens in pure semiconductor. Okay. Now I'll just frame a question right now, and you can understand what kind of the question they can ask it. So for suppose they give you, for a semiconductor, number of electron is equal to for suppose 5 into number of free electrons, 5 into 10 to the power 15. That's the number of electrons they gave, and that is for the pure semiconductor. They gave it like that. Now they gave you another extrinsic semiconductor, extrinsic semiconductor, and they'll tell you that they are trivalent doping. They are doing trivalent doping, and number of atom they have given in the question. What is that? For suppose 7.2 into 10 to the power 12. For suppose this one. Identify the type of semiconductor. Identify type. Which type of semiconductor will be found first? Second one, find the number of majority and minority charge carrier. What is happening? This is a pure semiconductor. So Ni remains constant for a semiconductor. That is the law. That's what you have to keep in mind. Ni remains constant. That is the number of charge carrier concentration remains constant. So on the basis of this, you can find Ni. That is, Ni is equal to Ne into Nh. And for the pure semiconductor, Ne is equal to Nh. And so Ni square is equal to Ne square. So Ni is equal to what? Ni is equal to Ne. So the number of electron, this one is your Ni value. So a value of Ni you have got. What is that? 5 into 10 to the power 15. And then since it is trivalent doping, so in trivalent doping, we get p-type semiconductor because one place remains vacant. So we have p-type semiconductor. And what is this p-type semiconductor? We have number of holes. So number of holes we can get. And what is that? That is equal to the number of atoms. So that is equal to 7.2 into 10 to the power 12. So the number of holes we already got. Now, find the number of majority and minority charge carrier. So NH is your majority charge carrier because it's a p-type semiconductor. Now I have to find minority charge carrier. So from there you get Ne. So Ne is equal to Ni square divided by NH. So you get it 5 into 10 to the power 15 whole square divided by 7.2 into 10 to the power 12, and that will give you the number of electron. That is the minority charge carrier. Okay, now we already see this energy band, this pure semiconductor, extrinsic semiconductor, the doping, N-type, the P-type, and how are they formed, discuss about the mobility, conductivity of all those things. Now, what are PN junction or the function of formation of PN junction diode? What is PN junction? So, basically, we have a type of semiconductor, N-type and P-type. They are not, we have a special 16th NCERT product, the PN junction diode, the kind of the diode which are made from the PN junction. Apart from that, we also have other types of the junction diode as well, like NPN junction diode that we use in the transistor, or PNP transistor. That kind of junction diode is used in the transistor. So, but here we use PN junction diode. So, a diode which has one side as P and the another side we have N. Okay, so let's understand this one. This is a PN junction, and we can say the PN junction diode. So first of all, I am discussing about the formation of PN junction diode. So you can understand the concept and write it in your own language in a flow, in the form of the flow chart. You can write it and use it to answer any kind of the question that you get in exam. So first of all, this side is P and this side is N. So this is P type. So what is this? Has number of holes more, and here the number of electron is more. So the majority charge carrier is holes, majority charge carrier is electron. The reason here I said it is your depletion region. Depletion region. No charges, devoid of charges, no charges remain here. They have no charges, okay? Zero charge. Okay. Across this, we have a barrier potential. So you see, here we have the number of the holes more, here we have the number of electrons more. So you will make an opposite battery kind of the thing. This will be your barrier potential. Remember, on the N side, you will make positive terminal. Why? I'll tell you now. On the P side, you will make negative terminal. Oh my God. Okay, no worries. I'll just start it again. Fine. Good. I have to make it again. This is P N. This is P side. This is N side. This is your depletion region. This is your depletion region. And on the P side, you make negative terminal. On the N side, you make positive terminal. Just opposite of the sign, symbols. This is negative. This is your positive. Let's just reduce a little bit thickness. Okay. So what happens? This is the devoid of charges. No charges are there. No, it doesn't have any charge. When you connect with the battery, when you connect with, or just without the connecting, that will be called as the biasing. Okay, remember that. Without the battery, without the biasing, I'm just cutting from there. So what happens? we take a semiconductor wafer like silicon or germanium. We start putting divalent doping from this side and pentavalent doping from this side. This will lead to the formation of p side on this side, and here it will make n side. During the formation, what will happen, that of course it does contain holes as the major charge carrier, and here we have electrons as the major charge carrier. So due to the high concentration of electron on this side and high concentration of holes on this side, they start rushing towards one another. So the holes move to this side and electron moves to this side. Step 1, holes from p side and electron from n side. They rushes towards one another and causes what? Diffusion current. So the direction of the current will be in this direction. Diffusion current is produced because they diffuse. That's why it is called as a diffusion current. Now this process is called as recombination. That is the covalent bond is formed. Recombination. So no charges are there, but since hole concentration is very high, so the few holes which get escape from the recombination or does not take part in the recombination, they escape from this side and reaches to another side. I'll just show it by another color. Reaches to this side, and few electrons happens to, with the same thing, and they reaches this side. Due to this, they develop a positive charge here and a negative charge here. Now you can see that on the n side a positive plate is developed, on p side a negative plate is developed. So this causes a formation of or occurrence of barrier potential between the junction. The more thick is the depletion region, the more will be the barrier potential. Remember that. And how do we get the value of the barrier potential? VB is equal to, you can write it, VB is equal to A into D, the thickness of the and the charges. So you may get a question from there. So this is the one plate, this is another plate, and if you know the amount of the charges, so between the two plates you can find the electric field, and this electric field is E by sigma by epsilon naught, and 2D you will get the barrier potential. Okay. Now at later stage, when this potential is developed, after that what happens, there is an electric field in this direction. So this hole will get force along the electric field, and electron will get force in the opposite direction of the electric field. So at the second stage, due to the development of electric field in the region, in the depletion region, holes and electrons drifts in opposite direction. That is holes will move from N to P and electron will move from P to N. Do not take it wrong. Okay, P to N. Why? Because already which electron and holes drift? Those holes which already has reached on the other side, they start drifting in the backward direction. So the holes reaches from N to P and electron starts drifting P to N. This one, and due to which drift current is generated. So leading to the drift current is produced. Drift current is produced. Drift current is produced. And when ID, that is the drift diffusion current, is equal to drift current. This is the drift diffusion current. This is diffusion current, and this is your drift current. Drift current. Then barrier potential is formed. Barrier potential is formed. Barrier potential is formed. Good. This is how we get the junction diode. The formation of the junction, the whole process I written it. You can just follow up the flow chart, and accordingly you can write the answers. Fine. Now, uses of PN junction diode in the circuit. Uses of PN junction diode in the circuit. Uses of PN junction diode in the circuit. How do we use them? So this is the symbol for the diode. This is your P side, this is your N side, this has positive, this has negative. When it is what we say, ideal, when it is ideal, it offers zero resistance in FB and very high or infinite resistance in RB, that is the reverse bias. Okay, so now we will move to the biasing. What is this biasing? For suppose we have the junction diode like this, and if we connect with the battery, so P side with the positive one and N side with the negative one, this is called as the FB, forward biasing. What happens in this forward biasing? That when you draw this one, this is your P side, this is your N side, and this is your depletion region. So what will happen? The depletion region will become thin. Depletion region will become thin, and the graph will be like this. The current produced is in milliampere, I is in milliampere, and then finally DL, that is the depletion region, breaks down. So you can see when it is connected with the battery, and as the battery potential is increases, so the current starts increasing gradually at very low rate, and then all of a sudden it increases abruptly. So the current produced is in milliampere, and this one is your voltage. So we have very significant rise in the current at the value of the VB. This is also called as the VK, knee voltage, because when we see the graph of the this current and voltage, they is like a knee. That is why they are like knee. That is why they are called as the knee voltage. So finally, DL, that is the depletion layer, breaks down. In the beginning, there is very low current, and then it rises like this. Okay, and this is how we use in the circuit. Another one, this is called as the forward bias. Positive with P and negative with N side. Now, for ideal resistance, ideal diode, we have zero resistance. For suppose if I give one example, like in the circuit, we have for suppose 20 ohm resistance, and then we have this diode. So what will be the what will be the voltage if the current for suppose this is your 20 volt, this is the 20 volt. So what will be the voltage across? So this diode offers the 20 ohm resistance. What was there? Oh my god, stream क्यों नहीं कर रहा है? Why it is not streaming? Wi-Fi is not. Yeah, it came now. Fine, good. So this is one example I told you that how you can be asked about the diode in the circuit. Okay. Next is your RB. RB means what? Reverse bias. What happens into it? That for suppose this is the diode, and if you connect the negative with the positive one and the positive with the negative one. This is your P side and you are connecting with the negative terminal of the battery. Here it is positive side and it is N side. So the opposite, with you connect the diode with the opposite polarity. So then this type of connection is called as RB. That means reverse bias. What happens when the current is applied? So what happens when this potential is supplied? So in the beginning there will be no current, and finally there will be abrupt increase in the current, increase in the current, and this current is called as the current produced is in microampere. The current is in microampere. Okay, so write it. I value is in microampere. In microampere first. Second that this VV increases, depletion region VV increases and then breaks down Okay, fine. The third is depletion layer thickens and then breaks. This stage, the second stage is called as the avalanche breakdown. Okay, good. Another one that though this is the RB. Okay, reverse bias. How are they used? So when diode is used in reverse bias, they offer infinite resistance, so there would be no conduction. For ideal diode, when it is ideal diode, no current, that the current would be equal to 0. Current will be 0 for what? This RB connection, that is the reverse bias connection. Now they are used in what we say, uses of PN junction, PN junction diode. Using a rectifier. What is this rectifier? Rectifier is a device like transformer which converts AC into DC. That is, they convert AC current to DC. How are they used? That is, how does they operate? So we have two types of rectifier. One is HWR, that we call the half wave rectifier. So for suppose we have a coils like the transformer, and then we have AC supply of that. Another coil is there, and then a diode is connected to that. From there, one end of the coil is connected to what we say, or earthing at the low potential, and from there this is your load, and it goes like that. You can see it. So what is happening? This is the diode. So when AC supply comes, so D1. So when positive cycle comes, so generally the graph of this AC cycle is like this. This is positive and this is negative. So when positive cycle comes, So this end is P and this end is N. So what will happen for the positive one? The diode will be FB. Diode will be FB. For positive cycle, diode will be FB. That is the forward bias, and it will conduct. So we'll have the current like this. And for negative cycle, diode would be RB. That is the reverse bias, and there will be no conduction of the current. So it will be 0. Okay. And related to this there have been a lot of the questions. For suppose if we give the supply of 20 volt, if we give the supply of 20 volt, so the voltage here will be 20 volt and then 0. So the voltage between 0 to 20 volt, because sometimes the voltage will be peak, that is the 20 volt, and in the beginning it will be the 0 as well. That is why the voltage range will be 0 to 20 volt, 0 to 20 volt, not the 20 volt, 0 to 20 volt. So this is called as the half wave rectifier. And you see, in the one cycle of DC is produced. In one cycle of AC, one cycle of DC is produced. That is why the frequency of output is equal to frequency of input. Okay. Then another one is full wave rectifier, FWR. FWR, full wave rectifier. So what is this full wave rectifier? For suppose this AC supply comes, and here you just make a transformer like this, and you give an AC supply, okay, and then the two diodes are connected. Two diodes are connected, and you center tap it from there, center tap it and ground it. And now you have this is a load resistance, and this is how this works. So for suppose when the positive cycle comes, what will happen? This is D1, this is D2. So D1 is positive, D1 is positive, and this will make a positive one. So this will conduct. For positive cycle, D1 is FB, D2 is RB. For negative cycle, D2 is FB and D1 is what is for negative cycle, D2 is FB, and for positive cycle, D2 is RB. So in positive cycle, this diode would conduct, and in negative cycle, this diode would conduct. And this is how they will give you the all current. So the all AC will be converted into the DC. So this is D1, this is D2, this is again D1, this is again D2. Now you see that for each cycle of AC, we have two cycle of DC current. That is why the frequency of output will be equal to frequency of input. Double the frequency of the input. So for suppose the frequency of this input is 20 Hertz, we will get rectified frequency as 40 Hertz. This is the rectified frequency, and this is your what we say the input frequency, input AC frequencies. The another thing is there that we use a capacitor filter in full wave rectifier. We use a capacitor filter to get the constant value of the current. So in the beginning, we see that the current is going like this, fluctuating. So in this here, the same, what we use before the load, we use a capacitor. So first of all, this capacitor gets charged, and then this gives you the supplies the current to the load. That is why the current remains always constant, like this, almost a constant value of the current is found. So after the before capacitor this one, and after capacitor this one, so this capacitor is used to reduce ripple effect. That's it, I think. Okay, so this whole semiconductor is done now. In my next part, I will give you this NCERT and the competency questions practice. For now on, I will keep it up to here only. Okay.